So we got a brand new brew here.
What do we have going on this week?
Oh, well, this is an old deck with some spicy new ones. That's the best way I could describe it. Now, Jeremy actually hasn't seen this deck yet either.
I'm brand new to this as of 5 seconds ago.
So I'm going to watch him go through it and explain each card as we go.
Man, I feel like I'm on the clock getting tested right now. Okay, so...
You fail.
I can see that the main theme of the deck is to take as many turns as we possibly can.
Yes.
Okay. And I take it this is the main win condition, along with Ulamog for some reason.
So we can't actually cast Emrakul with this mana base very well, but you could cast Ulamog, and theoretically this deck is weak to certain things like a Gaddock Teague or things of that nature. So it's nice to have something that can just kill permanents, and then it also stops us from getting Grindstoned out if we have to face that matchup.
Or getting milled out in case we have some people taking our own brews from last week and throwing them at us.
It also helps shuffle in cards of our own, because when you time walk infinitely, sometimes you don't have enough turns to actually kill them. So we can use Ulamog as a discard method to kind of Feldon's Cane, shuffle everything back into our deck.
So this is a reader right here.
Yeah, well, this is an old card from Vintage, actually, when the set first came out. You used to imprint your Time Walk onto it and just take infinite turns. So what we're going to try to do is imprint a Walk the Eons or a Temporal Mastery on there and take infinite turns that way. So it's kind of a win condition. It's a secondary win condition in case we don't get our buyback theme. Say if they Graveyard Disrupt us or something like that.
We have a Compulsive Research.
Why not? It's a Ancestral Recall on this deck. We have Life from the Loam, and we really want to be drawing a lot of cards to get this engine going. Traditionally, that slot was placed with Horn of Greed. I don't know if any of you remember that card, but it's a 3 colorless artifact. Whenever any player plays a land, they draw a card, which can get pretty absurd. I didn't want to play that today because it lets your opponent draw a lot of cards. We have no counter magic in our main deck, and we could just lock ourselves out of games that way.
We also have one of Crucible of Worlds.
It's a backup to the Life from the Loam. We have Academy Ruins and Intuition combo to go get it if we need to, and it's also something that's a little bit more permanent, which is nice. You don't always have to waste your draw step for it.
Talk about 4 explorations.
So this is how we combo. We set up 2 explorations. We use a Life from the Loam and Walk the Eons to take infinite turns. It lets us buy back the 3 islands every turn, continue to sack them, and continue to take extra turns, eventually letting us kill them with whatever we want, because we have as much
whatever
time
way
as we
is
need.
Most fun.
Exactly. And I put a Burgeoning in there as like a 5th exploration, and for fun, shits and giggles. Not to mention sometimes Burgeoning is nutty.
We also have some Moment's Peace.
We have some Moment's Peace, so you need something not to die, and Moment's Peace is our weapon of choice. We also have a Glacial Chasm in the deck, I think. Yep, there it is. It's above the forests, and that's another combo with Loam and Crucible to just make sure that they can't kill you.
It's odd that we're not playing any sort of fast land effects.
Yeah.
Such as, Tombs, City of Traders.
So we could, but they don't really work with the theme. You need to sack a lot of islands with Walk the Eons. You need to make sure you consistently have blue and green mana. And we can only play a few silver bullets, like Academy Ruins, a Bajuka Bog, a Glacial Chasm, and a Wasteland into the mana base. And we're playing a Future Sight, which I'm surprised you didn't touch down on.
That was my next one.
With Sensei's Divining Top, it's 1 mana draw a card, and you can just burn through your deck super quick with things like Exploration, too. Especially when you're time walking. This card can just get absurdly fun.
I feel like we're going to be using a lot of our extra clock that the new client is going to give us through most of our rounds.
I played a match with this, and I didn't take too much time. It matters how laggy we get. If we're laggy, yeah, I'd agree with you. But if it's not, I can play this pretty fast.
And you'll be doing the clicking this week.
I'll be doing the clicking this week, that's for sure. Let's go to the sideboard for a second, because there's some fun ones in here, too. So this is a particularly fun one of mine, Mana Maze. Mana Maze is not something everybody knows about. I tend to run it in a lot of my sideboards, and it usually surprises the heck out of people. They usually have to take a second read to it. So basically, players can't cast spells that share a color with the spell most recently played this turn. So if you play against things like High Tide or Elves, this card just messes them up in a bad way. The other cool thing is, let's say I play a Walk the Eons with buyback. I don't have to worry about them playing a blue counter back. Because it's a blue spell, they can't play a blue spell now. So it kind of gives you free reign to do stuff.
It can only be like Pyroblasted or anything like that.
Yeah, it could get Pyroblasted, that's true. But
but that's pretty narrow.
It's narrow. That's pretty narrow. We don't also bring in Mana Maze against a lot of decks like that too. It's not our anti-counter hate. It just happens to also work against counter. So if we're playing against High Tide, for instance, we could make sure they couldn't counter what we were doing.
And one of the things that we're gonna keep doing in these decks is playing cards that our opponents have no idea how to interact with. Give us a little bit of edge, and also just laugh at these ridiculous spells.
You'll notice Devastation Tide is on our sideboard.
This is sweet.
Yes,
this is sweet.
I love Devastation Tide. I mean, it's got a lot of uses. Just bouncing everything to their hand out of nowhere, just catching them off guard. It's like, oh, how many things do you have? You have a Revoker out, a Pithing Needle, you have an Aether Vial, you have, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Batter Skull. Death and Taxes especially, this card is just going to be awesome against.
Ooh, that'd be really fun.
That's the primary reason I want this card, because anytime you play it, it's like, alright, all those things that take you a ton of mana to cast, let's try to do that again. Good luck Rashad importing me while you're recasting everything. And I just reset all your Aether Vials. Ha 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 ha.
Some Bajuka Bogs, I take it to hedge against our surely Dredge matchups.
Yeah, we seem to play Dredge twice.
We played Dredge twice the first video, and I don't believe we played it our last video.
Did we play it once with the mill?
No, we played
none at all.
Sneak and Show, 12 Post, Painter, and Esper.
Yeah, okay. So we didn't play it last time, but the first week we played it twice, and there's a lot of Dredge on here. But I chose Bajuka Bog over the other graveyard hates, because you don't want to hit your own graveyard, and there's a lot of things to do with your graveyard. And I also wanted to keep the land count pretty high. The more lands we have on the table, the more likely we are to cast these 5, 6, and 7 drops in our deck sometimes. And it'd be even nice to get to 11 mana sometimes with Ulamog here. The more mana we have, the more stupid things we can do.
We've mentioned Death and Taxes as a deck that we want to play against. What are some other ones that you would prefer to play against?
So here we want to play kind of against the mid-range. I played a fun match earlier against a deck that was Pox and smashed him. Pox is weak
Not really a whole lot of interaction there.
Yeah, they're weak to a lot of things. A lot of things.
Such as decks without creatures in them.
Yep, like that one.
We have one.
We definitely want to play against decks that have a lot of removal, because they have no targets for it in this deck, and they're just kind of weak to us. I also think we want to play against the slow, dirtily decks. Like, I think we would do fine against an opposing 12-post deck or something like that. We have Time Walks to just keep going. They don't have counters. We get to do whatever we need to. And not to mention, we have Lone Wasteland combo main deck if we want it.
What do we not want to play against?
That's a good question. I think turbo counter type decks, like we don't want to play against a Belcher or Reanimator, those kinds of things. And I think we want to play mostly against the things that survive us till at least turn 4.
Okay. Well, we'll see how this one goes this week.
Yep. And we'll see you at round 1.